Hey all, welcome to another video. Um, as I said, that this starting this year, I'm actually going to be making more of these short videos to um, compensate for the fact that my blog post this year won't have won't have the level of detail that my blog post in the years before did. So I'll keep my blog post very brief and to the point, and maybe in between 5 to 800 words, as opposed to the 2000 to 2000 3000 word blog posts that I used to write in the years before. um, this year I'm just going to change my priorities, and to compensate for that I'll be making these short videos where essentially I'll be talking similar things to what I talk about in my blog, and that's mostly some of the technical challenges that I face and how I solve some of the problems that I face, how I overcome some of those challenges while I'm doing my coding and all that, building systems and everything. So yeah, and so that's basically the gist of this video. That's what I'll be doing this year. So okay, now before I keep rambling on and on, which is what I usually do, um, right? So I'll talk about, so for those of you who are aware of this, I'll be maintaining two repositories on GitHub. One is React TypeScript tutorials, and then the other one is Node TypeScript CRUD notes. Node TypeScript CRUD notes. So the first one is a tutorials app built with React and TypeScript, and the second one is a REST API built using NodeJS, Express, and TypeScript. And both of these have unit tests set up and everything, and they're both on GitHub. It's open source, so please, if you find yourself with some free time, do have a look at those things, and then do have a look at those repositories, and contribute in any way you can. Contribution could be either you raise an issue, you create a new issue in the repository on GitHub, talking about what you would like to see from the repository in the future, or better, if you've got time, try to fix one of those issues, fork the repository and create a PR. The goal of these repositories is just to explain certain concepts on how to achieve certain things. For example, the last couple of days I've been playing around with the React TypeScript tutorials app, and I've actually fleshed that out a bit more to include authentication in it via social logins such as like Google so far. So you can actually log into the app via Google, and you know how in a lot of the apps that we see these days, we see something like you know that there's an authentication wall. So yes, you could play around with some of the apps, but you can only make full use of the app if you actually have log into the app. You get past that authentication barrier, and so I'm actually showcasing that in this app, in the React TypeScript tutorials app, right now. So it's for everyone to see. It's GitHub, it's open source, so you can go in, you can have a look at it. So what I've done in the last few days is I've actually fleshed out that dashboard that I started adding last week, and now it's at a point where you get into the app, so you'll see that Google login button, or you'll see add to the list button. So with the add to the list button, you can use the app but with limited functionality. Whereas if you log in, if you log in using your Google credential, you can actually get into the app and you can do a whole bunch of things. And I've added 4 tabs to it. One is the to-do list, the other one is notes, then weather, and then news. So I'll be adding code to these tabs. At this stage, it's only the to-do list tab that's got code in it. So you can actually, it's a full-fledged to-do list, so you can actually CRUD to-dos in that. But I'll be adding notes, and when I add notes to it, I hope to integrate that with my Node TypeScript CRUD notes REST API that I've deployed to Amazon Elastic Beanstalk, AWS Elastic Beanstalk, and regarding the weather and the news is concerned, I'll actually be using third-party APIs such as Open Weather Map, which is what I used in the past for my day to do. It's a really awesome weather app, weather API. And for news, there's this API called Newscatcher API, and I'll be using that to actually showcase, your local news feed or things that a user might be interested in. So the idea is for this repository to actually show how to put all of these things together and how to achieve some of these things in your React app. So if you're building out a React app and you want to know how to do some of these things, you can actually have a look at this repository and you see code of a full-fledged working app. It's right there. So how to do it. So that's the goal. That's what I'm trying to accomplish. So it's a way. It's just a way for me as well as people to learn. So see, by ourselves we are incredibly smart and intelligent, very clever, whatever you want to call that. But together we get smarter. And how do we do that? By sharing our ideas and then sharing our code and sharing samples. And the last thing anybody wants to do is to actually spend hours and hours struggling with some config and some stuff, because resolving all those config issues and all those things, like it's that's not really, that's just grunt work. We all want to be solving problems, we all want to be doing things. So the idea of this repository is actually so you see a clean working solution, so you know how to accomplish something, you know how to accomplish certain concept, and code to accomplish certain concept. So if building it in your own app is taking you a bit longer, then you know that it's not hard to accomplish that, it's not hard to solve the problem. It's just that the configure, the environment, the setup, or something else is holding you back. So the aim of this repositories is that you learn, so you can learn and you have a reference point. What's the best thing, what's the good thing, how to accomplish that. So you know that for any other challenge that you may be facing in your project, it's not that you're not smart, you are incredibly smart, but you're just held back by some configuration issue, some setup, or some issue which is not related to your skills or capabilities, which is you are still just as awesome as you always were. These config issues go back. So, and more as I keep building on this, and the more I discover, the more I'll talk about, the more I'll write about, the more I'll share on how to solve these problems, because the pain and suffering that I have to go through, I don't want anyone to go through that. You just solve problems. That's how can you be most productive? That's the goal, because I don't want you to be held back by some silly config issue that I was held back by. So some silly problem like TS config or just config or some crap like that. So that's all. That's all DevOpsy, and I find that so boring, but it is necessary. It is something that needs to be done to actually move forward. Okay, so yeah, over the last few days, I've been updating the React TypeScript to-do list app, and where it's at right now is that I've added the dashboard. Wait, I already talked about this, didn't I? Yeah, well, so the dashboard is that you can actually have a play with it, and I recently made a post on social media with a screen of what it looks like right now. So, and I've also made the screen more responsive, so it actually adapts well to mobile phones and desktops accordingly. So I made the app a bit more responsive, which shockingly it wasn't before. But yeah, it's that. And I've updated the repository by adding some unit tests to it, and I wanted to see the reason why I was struggling, because I actually wanted to say I updated the test coverage, which I have, but not quite as much as I would like to, but it's been updated. And as I said, if you have a look at this repository and you find this useful, you can contribute, you can update the test coverage, and that'd be awesome. I'd appreciate it. Do that, create a PR, and I'll review it. And if all good, I'll merge it into the code base. That'd be awesome. Yeah, so what's been occupying my time, what has been occupying a good chunk of my time is AWS. Like, there are parts of AWS that I'm kind of struggling with. So the Node TypeScript, CRUD nodes, Node TypeScript CRUD nodes API. I'll be including links to all these APIs in the description of this video, so do check it out. So the Node REST API has been deployed on AWS Elastic Beanstalk, and that's all fine. It works great. Now for the front end app, like the React TypeScript to-do list app, that's deployed onto S3 bucket, and I've created a distribution in CloudFront, and I'm serving it via CloudFront. It's being served via CloudFront. And the last piece, one of the pieces of the puzzle is I'm struggling to get a custom domain to point to that CloudFront distribution. I've done a whole bunch of things. I've got certificates and all that, but there's something missing. There's some issue in the way I'm approaching this problem. There's some issue in the way I'm approaching this problem, or my solution to this problem, which is why it's not done yet. So I'm still working on it. And mind you, this domain that I've got is on a different site like GoDaddy, and I've actually configured Route 53 and updated the name servers in my GoDaddy repository with the ones on Route 53. I've created a hosted zone on Route 53, and I updated the name servers in my GoDaddy site with the name servers for my hosted zone. But there's something missing, which is why I'm running into a 403 error and actually try to access my CloudFront, my CloudFront distributed static website hosted on Amazon S3 bucket, AWS S3 bucket. Did that make sense? But that's pretty much what it is. But when I talk about it, it just sounds seriously convoluted. But that's what it is. So there's some issue there that I'm trying to work out. But once I do solve it, I'll definitely talk about it. I'll write a little blog post on it, because this is not something trivial. I'll write a little blog post and also make another video, and I'll talk about it. So yeah, that's it. In the next video that I make, I'll also have some video on TypeScript. So yeah, that's all for the day, and thanks for watching. Live long and prosper.